Hello, and you're welcome to Global Business Insights, where from a global perspective, we discuss insights, ideas, and answers to questions in the fascinating places where culture, finance, and business converge. Earlier today, the People's Bank of China announced it cut the one-year loan prime rate LPR by 25 basis points from 3.35% to 3.10% more than was expected. The 5-year LPR was also cut from 3.85% to 3.6%. Last Friday, Wall Street stocks secured a sixth straight week of wins as strong earnings from Netflix pushed the overall tech sector after we had earlier seen decent performance from the major banks. The focus this week is on electric vehicle giant Tesla, set to report quarterly results on Wednesday. Amazon reports after Thursday's close. Boeing and UPS also reporting this week. They are calling it an everything rally as US stock market indexes set records on a daily basis, broadening beyond fat cap tech-dominated gauges to the small cap Russell 2000. Bond yields and gold also rallying, benefiting from the easing of monetary policy and some risk aversion. And it's just weeks ahead of the presidential elections in the world's largest economy. But there is good news to celebrate. The Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta's latest estimate of Q3 GDP growth in the US was revised up to a 3.4% annual rate from 3.2% previously. Personal spending growth was lifted to 3.6% from 3.3% after retail sales for September topped estimates. The good news seems to override any predictions of election rockiness or heightening geopolitical risk. Let's hope it stays that way.
My message today: we can do better. As Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank across the street, often says, forecasts are not destiny. There is plenty we can and must do to lift our growth potential, reduce debt, and build a more resilient world economy.
Two major monetary institutions with very divergent agenda will hold meetings this week. The International Monetary Fund will discuss how to do better as it considers its nearly 80 countries at risk of or already in debt distress, even as global poverty reduction stalls amid the COVID-19 pandemic. We are seeing conflicts and low economic growth leading to more income inequality. In her cutting razor speech, the IMF boss Georgieva Kristalina said a combination of resolute monetary policy action, easing supply chain constraints, and moderating food and energy prices is guiding the world back in the direction of price stability. The other institution, the BRICS plus nations, perhaps more perturbed, will in their 15th year together be hoping to build a new global financial payment system to attack America's dominance of global finance and shield its members, especially Russia, from US sanctions. Also, we focus on culture in discussion of a recent survey by Accenture on Life Trends for 2025. The chart will showcase the main trends reshaping consumer behavior and what it means for business. Analysts see Q4 China GDP growth bouncing back further on China's recently introduced stimulus packages, as analysts saw the better than expected Q3 outcome pushing up more conservative annual growth estimates. Last Friday, China Q3 GDP growth eased to 4.6%, better than expected from 4.7% in Q2. Like I said, still a mild upside surprise. While Q3 quarter-on-quarter growth accelerated to 0.9% from 0.5% in the previous quarter. Industrial industrial production and retail sales growth jumped in September, also beating low market expectations. Manufacturing activity in China may have normalized from typhoon disruptions. In addition, consumer goods trade-in campaigns lifted car and household appliance sales. A slew of monetary, fiscal, and housing measures were introduced last week to stabilize growth and help expectations after the end September Politburo meeting. This month, the PBOC cut rates by 25 basis points. That came in just today. Also, given low inflation, there is still room for more cuts to the policy rate and the reserve requirement ratio for banks. That's in Q4. Analysts see China in Q4 at about 4.8% growth. That's annual growth forecast also at about 4.8 to 4.9%, with the risks tilted to seeing better than expected annual growth. Goldman Sachs raised China's gross domestic product forecast to 4.9% from 4.7% for 2024, according to a recent research note citing the government's latest round of stimulus measures. A recent Accenture 2025 Life Trends survey has shown that convenience is giving way to trust as the leading digital driver for customers. The survey includes inputs gathered from in-depth interviews with thought leaders in 8 countries, as well as an extensive online survey of 24,295 people across 22 markets. You would have thought artificial intelligence, robots and robotaxis will be taking over, but not so fast. People are rebalancing, according to this survey, their relationship with technology, with each other and the world around them, creating new challenges and opportunities for businesses and brands. We're also seeing a reset where 60% of people are questioning the authenticity of online content more than before. Last Friday, for example, a judge ruled that Meta must face a lawsuit by Massachusetts alleging it deliberately deployed features on Instagram to addict young users and deceived the public about the dangers it posed to the mental health of teenagers. There are 5 lifestyle trends for 2025 showing what people will need and want from business. First, there is a different hesitation to engaging online as people can no longer trust the experience in terms of what they see, creating a risk for anyone doing business there. There is a cost to this hesitation with ability to trust digital technology under threat and its additive value diluted by authenticity issues. The survey says over half surveyed have seen fake news or articles, and 33% have experienced the deep fake attacks or scams for personal information and or money. Second, there is demand for change from parents towards helping young people shape a safe, healthy relationship with digital technology. Evidence of harm to children and minors stacking up, encompassing bullying, abuse, unrealistic beauty standards, deep fake sextortion, and age-inappropriate content, requiring a radical rethink that could decimate some services completely and perhaps create new ones. Third, there is an impatience to use technology to find faster ways to pursue a goal, and social media offers a stage on which anyone can share their experiences and advice in relatable, intimate ways. There is a new power of the crowd driven by a strong person-to-person affinity, which satisfies impatience for new ways to achieve health, wealth, happiness, and better outcomes. 63% of survey respondents of all ages still say they get inspiration from social media on how to do things smarter. Fourth, employees are strained and an emotional distance between workers and work is becoming clear. A relentless push for efficiency is leaving employees feeling like productivity carries more weight for leaders than their skills, experience, and contribution to the company culture. Businesses are responding by fostering ownership and involvement in new ways, including more of equity for staff to upend the traditional union structures. workers. And as for unions, Boeing and its striking labor union reached a new tentative agreement that could end a month-long strike involving 33,000 workers in the Pacific Northwest. The strike halted production of 737 MAX and 777 planes. Staff dissatisfaction will require more proactive handling. Fifth, the survey sees in 2025 people finding new ways of spending spare time, finding joy and balance in real-world activities and genuine human connections, and changing the opportunity for businesses. So what does this all mean? Distrust is killing legacy branding and information structures as trust shifts to crowd social platforms rather than traditional news providers, and implies more investment in content moderation. Brands also need to establish and communicate clear methods for customers to verify their authenticity. The survey also suggests that if reaching younger people matters to a brand, it implies a less digital, social media dependent strategy. The workforce also needs fresh re-energization, and there's also need for a fresh balance as brands seek out non-digital ways to authentically connect with customers. A lot to chew for 2025. In a recent Bloomberg article, it was highlighted that it's no secret that Biden's America has ignored Africa, the continent with the world's fastest growing population, as a region analysts also say is increasingly turning away from Washington and leaning towards Moscow and Beijing. Both Donald Trump or Kamala Harris have said little on Africa, as Biden plans to visit the continent for the first time, that's to Angola, in his term, to talk up a big railroad project that the US is helping to fund, the so-called Lobito Corridor, which will eventually link the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans. Biden also pushed for giving Africa 2 permanent seats on the Security Council. We can understand difficult issues with Ukraine and Israel. China and so on have led Africa to be relegated down the priority list. But according to Linda Thomas-Greenfield, the US ambassador to the United Nations, she says that the worst situation that we've seen in the world in terms of killing, rape and starvation is not Ukraine, Gaza or the Middle East, but in Sudan. High interest rates in the West have also sustained capital inflows to Western economies, a situation that may be changing, and as rates drop, higher yields in Africa are increasingly more difficult to ignore. Like I always say, African leaders need to revive pro-Africanism and galvanize the potential within the continent, not just by talking up the rhetoric on the vision of Renaissance, but taking bolder actions to enhance attractiveness and address weaknesses in governance, corruption, and integration that has held the continent back. Neither Trump or Harris or indeed anyone else will do what Africa needs to do for itself, especially with the new trend of protectionism on the rise. While Africa must welcome China's interest, they must also view the context for cooperation through a well-focused win-win lens. Africa should not rush into a Chinese embrace without any guardrails. Asia-Pacific markets were mixed as traders assessed China's loan prime rate announcement, with focus also on Japan's general election at the end of this week. Chinese equities rose after the benchmark lending rate was cut by 25 basis points, with small-cap stocks leading gains. Gold also touched another record high as tensions in the Middle East drove demand and investors positioned for the U.S. presidential election. Well, that's it from me on Global Business Insights. This is Bode or Shosami. Thank you so very much for watching. Bye-bye.